Welcome back to the Hum podcast. Well, yes, where we get real about health, lifestyle, and the habits that help us thrive. Today, we're tackling a really important topic, which is probably not much talked about, but should be winter blues. The days are shorter, colder, we don't get enough light, and we suddenly feel as energetic as we did during the summer. So we thought maybe good time to talk about this and see what's going on, what can one do, and how can one prioritize self-care during the shorter days and longer nights. Sarah, what do you think?
I mean, I love it because I have been personally affected by the weather very deeply. I went to school in a cold tundra, which is just a dramatic way
Oh,
to
oh
say
no.
Pennsylvania.
I thought you were now talking about Siberia. Okay, keep going.
No, I'm talking about Pennsylvania. I'm also very like dramatically freezing all the time. So, um, temperature regulation is a really important one to me. And I remember my senior year of college, we where I went to school was like in a valley. They called it Happy Valley. I went to Penn State, but it was a valley where the clouds would get stuck and it
Mm.
would be like gray and the sun wouldn't come out and it would be snowy. And it was just really intense from a weather perspective for me. And so my senior year, we went to Miami for spring break and I was like, I'm alive. My life is incredible. And then we came back and it was into the tundra and it was snowing. And I remember being like bundled up and snow was like somehow getting into my jacket. And I was just like, this is miserable. And so I really deeply feel that seasonal impact from cold and warm weather.
So you don't like the cold, just to summarize.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I don't mind the cold, but like what really, really hits me hard and where I grew up was like we pretty much said goodbye to the sun during Thanksgiving and said hello to it at Easter, where literally we had these long periods. It's gray, 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 rain, 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 no sun whatsoever. I mean, all you see is clouds basically. And it's not cloud nine that I can tell you. So it was really rough. But when you grow up like this, you think this is normal and you don't realize what we go through, right? And like
Yeah.
less light, this and that. But we always spend a lot of time outside, though. We try to get outside to either play, ice hockey and things like that on frozen lakes. Winters,
Yeah.
I love skiing.
Yeah. I think if you have the right gear, that anything is possible. I did not have the right gear and I would stay inside and just be freezing all the time. So that was my experience because I grew up in it as well. I grew up in the cold and
Mm.
man, I was so happy when I was not in a cold climate. And now we're back in the cold climate. And I'm like, this is freezing. But my
Okay.
kid is outside all the time and he loves it. He's got, a balaclava and snow pants and wool underwear, like all of the things. And he's like, happy to be in it. So I think to your point, if you are prepared and having fun, and then it's really actually a beautiful thing.
Well, as long as he's happy, we're happy. Right? That's the most
Exactly.
important part. But let's talk about it scientifically. Like, what are exactly are winter blues and how are they different from regular sadness? Because we call them the winter blues, but it is like, you feel it, right? But there's a
Yeah.
real
Oh, I
about that.
felt it deeply. I think
Yeah.
there's a couple of things happening when we look at it in a climate perspective. And one is just the days are shorter and you're getting less access to light. So
Hmm.
when that happens, we're not making as much serotonin because serotonin is something that your body makes when you're exposed to light. And it makes us feel good. So it's important that we have serotonin and we can get it in other ways. But one of the main ways we do get it is by that light exposure. So when you have a significantly shorter time being in the light and you're exposed to more darkness, you're not going to be making as much serotonin. So there's something there that does impact our mood, absolutely, just from that neurotransmitter perspective and the length of times. And that impacts our circadian rhythm.
Got it. Um, and there's obviously light. How about temperature? Does it play a role at all, or is just temperature the side effect, if you will, or the reason why we get less light? Because it's cold outside, so therefore we don't go outside. If we don't go outside,
Yeah.
we get light exposure.
Well,
Um,
I think a really great example is our two stories, right? Where you grew up and you have these beautiful memories of playing on the ice. I grew up in it and it was just, I was so upset to be in that cold. So I think it really depends on the person and your nervous system capacity. For
Hmm.
me, I've noticed that when I am uncomfortably cold, it decreases my ability to be resilient, to show up fully, and it really like agitates my nervous system. And I was in a hotel one time and it was summer, but the air conditioning vent was blowing on me when I was in bed. And I was so dysregulated by that. And I was so angry and I was so cold and uncomfortable. So I think it really depends on the type of person that you are. Cold can be very uncomfortable for certain people.
Yeah, and I'm like you, like when it comes to hotel rooms, I just don't like ice cold air blowing in my face.
Ugh.
Or the other thing I have, like light, pollution from like all these devices in
Yeah.
my room. I just sticker all over them basically. I don't want any LEDs disturbing my sleep. And then the last thing is
Right.
like the mini bar. That's my real thing in a hotel room. The noise from the mini bar. It's like, first of all, I never drink any of these overpriced beverages. But second, they're just typically bad fridges that make this noise. I just unplug it.
Yes. But
And
all of those things impact your mood. So if
I,
you're constantly exposed to it, there's that for me it's that underlying agitation and then that just throws a lot of my regular day off. So I think there is a really big tie-in to our mood and temperature control and regulation.
Yeah, and you spoke about light already, right? And light can really help here. So I think there is a reason why infrared saunas are on the app as well. It's just like a nice way of exposing yourself. But you also need that UV light, I suppose, right, to produce that D3 in your body,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah.
So paying attention to getting outside, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable, just put an extra sweater maybe, or like, underwear, whatever it is to keep you warm, but get outside.
Yes.
How
Yes,
about
yes.
nutrition? Does it play a role here when it comes to a winter blues?
Yeah, so food is always going to impact the way we feel and play a role. And the more we can keep our bodies stabilized with consistent meal timing, not eating really sugary processed food, that's going to help everything stay more balanced, including our mood. And there's certain things, certain nutrients that are important too, like omegas, B vitamins. And vitamin D, there's actually a lot of really good research to look at a link between low levels of vitamin D and more of this seasonal affective disorder that we're talking about. So those are really key nutrients to integrate into your diet, especially when the days are shorter. Vitamin D, because we get that conversion, like you said, UV light converts vitamin D. So when we're bundled up and we're not being exposed to as much light, that vitamin D level will drop.
Yeah, and then you mentioned foods like healthy fats obviously are important, and it's no surprise that if you live in the Arctic Circle, there are diets rich in salmon, for example. Salmon is really rich in omegas threes. Obviously, it's fatty, but it's really good for you as well during the cold months specifically. And there's a whole ecosystem built around that. Of course, they grow in cold waters, etc. But like thrive and grows cold waters, but there's a reason why you have a diet rich in omegas in certain
Yeah.
populations because it really helps them overcome those deficiencies that we are exposed to during the shorter days. How about sugar? Like, I mean, I don't want to demonize sugar on every podcast, but I mean, sugar never seems to get away
I
with
mean, it's one of the most reliable ones to demonize
it.
because it's so dysregulating for our body. And when we're talking about energy levels, when we're talking about mood, when we're talking about being a little bit more intentional with less light that we have, having stabilized blood sugar is very critical to keeping our bodies calm and stable. And when we look at even nervous system capacity, like if we're experiencing more discomfort from the weather changes, from the decreased exposure to light, it's really important to look at what can we do to keep our bodies functioning well. And stabilizing blood sugar is one of the best ways to keep our energy levels consistent and to keep our mood consistent.
Okay. And why don't we move beyond food for a second? And, let's talk about things one can do, in addition to paying attention of getting those omegas, maybe a bit of D3 supplementation to regulate your mood. What else can one do to, overcome the winter blues?
So, like you said, movement, being outside, moving your body, even if you're in a gym, anytime we're moving our body, we're getting endorphin release. So, we're changing our biochemistry, we're changing the access and expression we have of different neurotransmitters. So that's always going to be helpful. And especially if you're like a colder person, moving your body and sweating is going to give you that ability to kind of like open up and feel expanded. And I always go to physical movement. It's interesting. I look at like my patterns over time, and I am the most physically fit and committed to like movement in the winter time, which
Hmm.
I'm like, ugh, you know, like I'm in the most clothes, but like feeling the best. And I'm like, no one's ever gonna see, I'm not gonna be in a bathing suit, but that's always for me when I am really into my workout routine.
Interesting. And I just want to share something, and this is something nobody probably will ever heard of, but in Austria, I'm half Austrian, we have something called the Energy Week. So there's a break in, in the winter for kids to go on a ski vacation, etc. It's called Energy Break. And it's really like leaning into this idea of getting outside, being physically active despite, the weather, etc. And I think there's some truth to it. I think it's a very, I loved it, and I think it's a really good way
Yeah.
of bridging those winter months. So if you can, schedule some vacay in February, say, to sort of like just bridge you over, it's a good thing to
Yeah,
do.
that's and being outside, I mean, that's another really important part because there's something called phytoncides, and those are produced by trees and
Mm-hmm.
plants and vegetation. So when we're around those things, we actually experience more regulation. It changes our biochemistry. It improves our mood and our immune function. So that kind of goes back to that whole concept of forest bathing. And when you
Mm-hmm.
put people into nature, their immune system responds in a really positive way. You can still access that when it's cold out. Like pine trees are still going to give off phytoncides. So it's important to be outside, to be breathing clean, fresh air. That's a beautiful way to improve your mood overall.
And then tracking HRV, I have a note here about that one. Can you talk about that for a sec?
Yeah, so I think anytime you can get data
Hmm.
within the context of how I function and move in the world, it's really beneficial. So looking at HRV, if you have like an Aura ring or a Whoop band, or there's so many things that track that. But HRV gives us really good context and insight into our nervous system.
Yep.
So as HRV goes down, it means that our nervous system is more dysregulated. It's more in fight or flight. And so as it goes up, we see that improvement in parasympathetic regulation. So it's important to look at that and to track and to see how am I responding to the weather? How am I responding to the daylight? And are there actual physiological changes that are happening in my body?
And before we move on, HRV stands for,
Heart rate variability.
thank you, because not everybody may know this, right? And there's so much
Yes, yes,
data
yes.
and
That's
so
a
much
good. So
tracking.
it's looking at heartbeat rhythms and rates, and that obviously ties directly into our nervous system and whether our heart's beating faster or slower. And so we can see trends and map out how that's actually moving throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, and just look at, okay, if I go outside or if I increase cardio movement into my workout routine, how does that impact my heart rate variability? And that's a really good marker. You don't have to get a blood draw, you don't have to go anywhere. You can
Yeah,
track that easily on an app or at home. So I think that's another just cool way to tap into like what is my body doing?
got it. And then, we have done our gift guides last year. So, but just to summarize, like, are there any products that you particularly like that help overcome the winter blues?
Yeah, so one that I recommend to my clients a lot is something called the happy lamp, and that just helps to give you more access to serotonin. So when you turn it on, like if it's dark when you wake up and it's dark when you come home from work, sitting in front of this happy lamp actually gives you the same kind of experience that more light during the day would. So it's a really good way to interact with that seasonal blues or depression. So I love a happy lamp. And then I also really like I said, I'm dramatically freezing all the time. Anything that keeps me warm or keeps me feeling like snuggly is really important. So, like heating blankets, I use all the time. I have weighted heating pads. Um, a weighted blanket is really good as well because it just kind of gives you that like hug like sensation and you're all warm and snuggled. And then a bath with magnesium flakes is another one that I think is really a good way to support your body if you feel very energetically or mood wise impacted by cold.
Or you just watch an episode of Heated Rivalry. I mean, that is also something that will, will keep you very, very warm, I would say.
Like, I mean, yeah, or that, whatever increases your body temperature.
Have you not watched this?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
Oh my God, check it out. You're missing one of the biggest trends in media right now.
Where can I watch it?
I think where did I watch it? I forgot now where I watched it, but I think it was picked up by HBO actually. Do you have HBO?
Okay. I don't know. We cycle through our subscriptions. We might be on an off cycle
It-
with
It's
HBO.
this Canadian series and like basics about two a gay ice hockey player, and it's very heated. Let me put it.
Really?
Yeah, you want to watch it without family around.
I mean, my go-to is I just constantly rewatch Sex and the City. So I'm always delighted when
This is like
I can expand my
this is
horizon.
taking this takes it to a whole new level. It's like, you will learn a lot. Um,
Ooh, all right.
it'll keep you warm during the winter month for sure. All right, moving on here. Are there any signs that we should pay attention to, and maybe it's time for some course correction when it comes to winter blues?
Yeah, so if you feel that constant kind of like low mood or hopeless and it's interfering with your day-to-day function, that's something to tune into. If you're noticing changes in your sleep patterns or appetite, I would get curious about that. If you're not as excited to do some of the things that you love to do or enjoy and feeling of that like hopelessness or sadness, those are times that I would kind of explore it a bit more, and especially when it starts to interfere with your day-to-day function.
Hmm. Um, and I always say, like, if you really experience a lot of like mood changes and longer periods of feeling, sad, etc., there are, ways to reach out to professionals as well. And like that's always something we encourage people to do, talk to a professional
Yeah.
because they're like a tool in the toolkit. And especially when you tend to feel not so great about yourself, we have this natural instinct of looking inwards, but reaching out for help is really, really helpful,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it helps you bridge it over. And these things can be managed and addressed. All
Yes.
right,
I love that.
let's do myth versus fact, Winter Blues edition.
Let's do
Um,
it.
all right, let me start here with one. I just need to wait it out. Winter blues go away on their own. I think this was a good segue from.
Yeah, and I would say that is a fact because when it is seasonal, it doesn't mean that it's going to be there forever. So sometimes we just have to look at, okay, I know that I tend to feel a little bit more down during this time, and what are ways that I can support myself when it starts to, the distinction there being when it starts to impact your day to day and it's really hard for you to interact with those activities, all the things I just talked about, or that hopelessness. That's when you want to seek some guidance. But on a day to day basis, if you're like, gosh, I just don't like winter, or I'm super not into this short period of time of day, it will pass. The season will change. It will start to get lighter. So again, lean into how do I support myself? But if it does feel unmanageable, that's when you really do want to seek help,
Yeah,
which is totally okay.
I would even say like don't let it feel unmanageable. Like be
Yeah.
proactive about it, and just pay attention, get some light, get out there, even if it's a couple of minutes. Eat those omegas, get your D3. It really makes a difference. Like, I mean, D3 supplementation, there's always like people
Yeah.
think, they think, okay, does this work? I mean, it's one of the most and well-studied supplements out there. It works. First of all, when you take it, your D3 levels go up, your D3 levels go up, you really feel the impact. So if you take away one thing from this episode, you can actually manage some of these things and don't wait until it's too late, right? I mean, because
Yep.
that's
Yep. Yep.
typically, we don't want to reach that point. Um, how about eating carbs in the winter, to like sort of like to for comfort? What's the RD take on carbs during the winter? I mean, I love carbs, but
Yeah, well, we have to kind of hold what types of carbs. Like
all right.
complex carbs, yes, they will absolutely help your mood in the wintertime because they create that blood sugar stability. And we've talked about how that's important for maintaining energy and mood. So, fact, yes, complex carbohydrates. However, empty carbs, sugar, processed foods, that can actually make things worse. So, that one just depends on what type of carb we're talking about.
Got it. All right. So as always, it's not black or white. There's always like a truth somewhere in between. But I do
Yeah.
like, I just love pasta, to be honest. But it doesn't have to be during the winter. I love pasta all year round. So
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, listen, it's balance, it's moderation, it's having that, like if you're having pasta, have it with a salad and then you're getting some fiber. Like it's never like black and white, like you said. It's not like pasta is bad. We do the things that make us feel good in moderation and balance.
All right, let's conclude this part with another myth here that missing sunshine means my mood can't improve. Absolute myth. Sarah, what do you recommend?
Yeah, so even if the sun's not out, we talked about like happy lamps or getting outside that we didn't talk about this one, but like getting outside when the sun is rising can be a really good way to kind of boost serotonin levels. So even if you're not able to access directly the sun, doesn't mean that your mood can't improve. Movement we talked about, vitamin D, omega 3s are another really great one, balancing your sugar. So there's many different things that you can do. And if you miss the sun, what I do is I look for inexpensive flights to Florida and I just go to Florida. I'm like,
What,
it's
what
time. Usually in February, I have to plan my Florida escape and sit on the beach and just like like a wilted plant, like soak myself in sunlight. And that really helps.
the mirrors around you just to like so you have a giant parabolic,
Yeah.
system.
And just like however I can get it, I'm like, please fill me up with all of the light and deliciousness.
I love that. What are they called? Snowbirds, right? The people who migrate. You've got
Yeah,
this.
they've got it right. I wish I could be a snowbird, but my challenge is I have a child in school. So I'm like, gosh, if he could go to school in the summer, then we could go to Florida in the winter and it would all work out.
All right. Do you have your Florida trip booked or not?
I haven't booked it yet, but I've my girlfriend's in Chicago. And
Okay.
so her and I are both like by February. We did it last year. We've already talked about, yes, we're doing it again this year.
Love that. All right, let's do our well yeses and well nos. Mine this week are well, my well yes is to really like winter sports. I think I'm a huge fan of those, and the Winter Olympics are just around the corner, so I'm so excited about this. Although I do miss the Russians for figure skating. There's always a drama with them. And my well no is staying inside, during the winter. Like get out there, just put on a warm jacket, enjoy. Actually, your skin, by the way, this is one thing that motivates me. Like you go outside, it's a bit cold, the air's crisp. Your skin just looks so amazing. Like when you come back in, right? You have this sort of really
That nice red
well, it's a nice
glow,
tight
the
skin.
snotty nose. I find that my skin gets drier than it's ever
No,
been,
you
and it's
just
just
put
like
stuff
flaking
on.
apart.
No, you put stuff on, like when you go skiing, you put
Yeah, well, I
really
have to.
rich creams and stuff. But
Like thick. Yeah,
after day skiing, and you had this thick thing on and like protection against the sun and all that, like it's really good. I love it. I really love it. And the mountain waters tend to be better as well. But
I
anyway,
think I'm just laughing because you and I have very different experiences with winter. And you're like, I love it. And I'm like, my skin is so radiant. And I'm like, my skin is flaking off my face. Which is great, right? Two perspectives. There's never one right way
no,
to feel
absolutely.
about anything.
I would. All right, what are your well yeses and well nos this week?
My well, my well, yes, is amplifying sun exposure, getting outside, going somewhere where it is sunny. My well, yes, is trips to Florida. So but really for me, being conscious about light exposure and staying warm. Those are my well, yeses. My
I'm
well, no.
imagining you right now in Florida. I hope you have one of these huge visors and you drive around the golf cart as well, or is that like how like how
No, I'm like a renegade. People look at me and they're like, "Oh dear." I'm like no sunscreen, fully exposed. Like I love it. I love Florida in the wintertime. So,
all right.
um my well no is loading up on sugary treats to get dopamine instead of doing things that are more grounding and healthy for the body.
All right. As always, super insightful. Let's do our RD rapid fire. Best foods and habits for happier winter mood. You know how this goes on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best. Let's rate a few foods here. Wild salmon or fatty fish.
9,
Leafy greens and whole grains.
10,
Sitting in front of a fire. How romantic.
10,
Vitamin D rich foods.
9,
A good morning walk outside.
7,
Staying socially connected.
10,
Hot chocolate before bedtime.
3,
Taking your daily magnesium.
10,
And keeping your core warm.
10.
Having a nightcap or a good cocktail or wine before bedtime?
4.
All right. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
Um, I thought we'd end on a high note, but that was a low note, I suppose. But anyway,
Wah, wah.
no, we're all for it, basically. And there's some really like we're working on some really cool night cocktail drinks with magnesium. So stay tuned on that one. There's some really fun recipes we're working on. We'll
Awesome.
share them on social. Listen, I thought this was so interesting and brought definitely some happiness into my winter blues days. Thank you for this. And any closing remarks, Sarah?
I just think it's important to remember that your mood and well-being matter, and being simple, being consistent with your habits can make that cold, less light exposure moments more manageable.
Well said. And if you like this episode, please give us a like, follow us across different channels, and share with your loved ones. Stay warm, get some sun, and a massive thanks to Brooke, our producer, and our production coordinator, Fatima. See you next week.
Thank you.